Yes. Okay. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, my name is Tom Bucco, and I represent Carroll County District Number 2, which includes the towns of Chatham, Conway, Eaton, and Hales location. I appear before you today to introduce House Bill 1134 and to request that the Energy and Natural Resources Committee recommend House Bill 1134 ought to pass. The intent of House Bill 1134 is to establish a committee to study the proper labeling and disposal of disposable wipes. Disposable wipes include pre-moistened, non-woven sheets, including baby wipes, disinfecting wipes, and all-purpose cleaning wipes. Wastewater operators are finding huge clumps of these wipes in the wastewater collection and treatment systems. These wipes are being flushed into toilets, but they are not biodegradable. They're plugging up water systems and must be manually removed. It's the intent of House Bill 1134 to establish a committee to study the proper labeling and disposal of wipes and to estimate the costs for New Hampshire municipalities for the impact on wastewater infrastructure from wipes that do get flushed. The committee will study these issues, report its findings, and make recommendations for proposed legislation in their final report. Thank you. And I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative, what is it that needs to be studied other than perhaps putting a sign up by every toilet or in every restroom or rest facility? I mean, we're going to establish a committee to study how to tell people not to flush something that's not flushable.
Yeah. Well, the packaging, doesn't say, some packaging says flushable, and they're not biodegradable, and it's causing damage to the infrastructure. It's costing municipalities and water districts. It's costing money because they got to manually remove it. And if you read the DES letter, there's a lot of damage is being done to these systems. So, as far as what you're saying, yes, the main thing is to make people aware of this. But I mean, I know where I live. We pass these things out, and it doesn't seem to make any difference.
So, who do you pass those out to, Representative?
To residents.
So, I'm going to ask, if you pass something and put it to residents' households and ask them not to do it, how is a study committee going to fix that problem?
That's what. No, I don't know. That's what we're going to study, I guess.
Seeing no further questions, oh, you do have a question. All right, and your microphone.
I was going to. All right. Certainly, because I'm the city council in the city of Rochester, this is a lot better than the bill we had last time, which put the problem squarely in the laps of the people who could least fix it. But some kind of a device that would grind up the things that are there seems like a thing that ought to be in the bill. I don't know that I see any of that in here. Unlike Senator Gaida, I think that there's a solution to this. I don't like committees. I think this could be done without a committee, but I'd like to get you to comment on
those. Thank you, Senator. The systems do have grinders in them, but they're engineered to grind up solid waste. These things don't come apart. They just wrap around the blades and clog the thing up. So the idea was to get a committee together to make people aware and to see what we can do about putting the proper messaging on the packaging, since that's would have to be more than just one state. It would have to be more than just New Hampshire, because these who knows where it comes from. But
thank you.
So Representative, what we're looking at here is you're looking at a study committee so you can at least come up with some type of solution for this. You're searching for an answer for a way to deal with this properly.
Yes, that's correct. Thank you. I mean, right now, we can't do anything except send these things out and then just get ignored.
And so you're looking for a more effective way through the study committee.
And packaging it so that it says, don't flush these down, you know. People just seem to think that it's toilet paper. It's not.
So, in essence, they're costing taxpayers, right? So if you flush this, your taxes will go up. I don't know. I'm thinking outside the box.
There's a good message.
If you flush this down, your taxes will go up. Any further? I'm just.
Well, that's true, and if that's a good message, maybe we'll put that on these packages.
Any further, Senator?
Yeah, I have a fundamental problem when you're tagging a manufacturer to try to change the behavior of people, okay? And I don't think that's a proper solution. I think it's going to be price is going to go up, and I don't think you're going to change the behavior of the population with that particular methodology.
Thank you, Senator. Well, then maybe this committee would come up with some other kind of ideas. I don't know, but this is not a new thing. It's been going on, and it's getting worse.
Senator Perkins-Coker.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Representative, for doing the dirty work, so to speak, to understand this issue. I have states regulated product labeling for things like non-flushable. I'm not familiar with the state law. On
Thank you. Thank you for the question. I'm not sure. There is, I think there's a bill at the national level that's just beginning to try to address this, but I don't think it hasn't been up until now.
Okay, thank you.
And I would just add, I wanted to just add one thing about the dirty work. I do serve as a commissioner for the Conway Village Fire District, which administers the water and wastewater system. And our superintendents finding these things that the blades are, you know, they're getting wrapped around the blades and stuff, shutting everything down, and then they have to go in there and rake it out by hand. It is dirty work.
Yeah,
It's poisonous work, really.
thank you.
Thank you.
Representative, thank you for your testimony. Seeing no further questions, we're going to ask for Representative Peter Bixby.
Thank you.
In support, wishing to speak.
Thank you. For the record, I'm Representative Peter Bixby, Stratford District 17 from Dover, and ranking member of the House Environment and Agriculture Committee. And this bill originally came to our committee. It was probably would have been better suited for the Resources Committee because they know more about water waste than we do, but it came to us. And it initially came as requesting a commission, and we felt that a committee would be a leaner way to address the problem. So we converted it to a committee. A committee does have the capacity to invite all of the stakeholders that a commission could also include. So one of the things that our witnesses had significant concerns with was the cost that these wipes are putting on municipalities. Representative Bucco mentioned that these things get tangled up in the shredding and pumping machinery. We heard testimony that these wipes can essentially destroy the pumps and the shredding machines, and the cost of those machines is tens of thousands of dollars. So we're talking about we're talking probably over the breadth of the state, we're probably talking about millions of dollars of damage. And I think DES can probably address this more specifically because they have more data on it. But millions of dollars of damage over the years are being caused by these wipes, and that's coming on our taxpayers' property taxes. And something needs to be done about it. And this committee, the study committee that's proposed here is a way of finding a solution to a problem that is very expensive for our state. And that is the main thing we saw. And we had and this is also a problem not only for municipalities, but also for homeowners who are on septic, because many people do not realize the problem with these, and then they're paying $5,000–10,000 to have their septic system repaired. So the septic haulers were also strongly in support of this, and I'll take any questions, but I think you're going to get most of the details from DES, so I may let them give more details about the exact problem.
Senator Gatter with a question?
So this, you may not have an answer. I don't know what the situation is with regard to, you said it causes an increase in property taxes. Are water districts incorporated in cities' tax bill, or is the water district a separate bill? I don't know the answer to that.
I believe that it is that the base level of service is provided through the septic bill, so through billing that is specific to the septic system, but to the sewer system. But there is also a municipal responsibility for making sure that the entire sewage processing system of a city is up and running. So it's divided between property tax and septic costs. Septic costs may be divided. That is also something that our taxpayers are dealing with, and you can't opt out of the sewer system if you are on a sewer line. So that is essentially, you could sell your house and go somewhere else, but that's not really a good solution.
Senator Gray?
Would you believe that a city or a town would have to set up an enterprise fund in their budget in order to have those funds segregated from general funds?
I would believe that.
All right.
Thank you for that piece of information.
Further questions? Seeing none, thank you very much, Representative, for your
Thank you.
testimony. Representative Smith in support, not wishing to speak. Representative Dennis Thompson, in support, wishing to speak.
The common mistake. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Senators. I am here as a state representative, but I'm also here as an expert in septic and sewer. For 40 years or more, I've been a licensed septic installer in the state of New Hampshire. I've worked for the last 30 years with sewage treatment plants, with lagoon cleanings, and any number of different issues. This is one of the wipes I took out of your thing a little earlier and finally wrung the water out of it. And as you can see, they don't break up. What they do is they knot up, and they knot up with other wipes. I have two pictures that I'd like to circulate that come from the Plymouth Wastewater District. Give them.
Right.
The top one of those pictures is of a basket that's used in what's called the headworks. It's the system at the beginning of a treatment plant that collects the material and screens out things that shouldn't get through. Unfortunately, as you can see in the basket there, it gets to a point where there's no water going through, and these things will float up and make it into the rest of the process as well. The second picture is of a dewatering auger, and what happens with those is obvious. They get plugged up, and I've not seen the actual shaft, but I've seen a picture of a 2.5-inch stainless steel shaft that ran through an auger that got snapped in half because of this. The problem with treatment plants are pretty much every treatment plant is a unique facility, and there are different technologies that they commonly use, but there are also unique features. When you break one of those unique features, it's some time to get another one created and installed, and these plants will be down. It'll cost, I think, if I can answer one of Senator Guyda's previous questions. It's going to cost generally the people in the wastewater district the most money. There may be some spillover to taxpayers that have septic systems as they have to pump their systems. And I can tell you from what I've seen, and I unfortunately didn't bring any pictures. I live in Colebrook and wasn't up there last night. That in septic systems, the state of New Hampshire requires you put a flow regulator in the D box, which receives the material before it goes out to the leach field. And if these make it through the septic baffles and into the D box, these plastic flow regulators only have a small slit in them that allows the water through. You put a couple of these in there and you have a failed septic system and water coming up through your lawn. There is a bill in Congress currently sponsored by Senator Merkley and Senator Collins from Maine. And what they're going to need is the support of the states to get a change in labeling. This particular container, I read the whole thing. It doesn't say they're flushable, but it shows a toilet on the back of the box. It's a visual form of advertising without actually calling it a flushable wipe. Many of them do call them flushable, and I can guarantee you most of the ones you just saw in those pictures are those that they said were flushable. They just don't biodegrade, and they are very strong. The woven ones are very strong, and I encourage you to forward House Bill 1134. I think it's the committee could do a number of things. These pictures came from Plymouth, New Hampshire, college town, where every young lady wipes her makeup off at night with a so-called flushable wipe and probably flushes it down the toilet. And that's the kind of problem that's created on a daily basis. And the money, it's at this point, it's indeterminable until we go to these towns with a committee and find out what it is costing and what the projected costs are. I also think that the committee could develop some signage that could be placed in particularly public bathrooms and college bathrooms in particular, because all of the cities with a college in them currently are the cities that are having the problem. If there are any questions I could answer for you, I'd be happy to.
Sure. Chair has a question. Just basically, there are some mandatory labelings on some of these packages already, from what I understand. But rather than taking that approach, seeing how these things are being passed out and they're pretty much ineffective because we still have the problem, the study committee, would it be amenable, that they look at ways of like a public service announcements or something to that effect, indicating, say, well, maybe your tuition's going to go up in the colleges because of the expenses of, or something to that effect. You know?
I think there are any number of ways that we can approach that, and following this federal regulation or the federal bill, I think that's going to give it the teeth that it needs to get these companies to actually, they know which ones are flushable and which ones aren't, but they also know that people want them to be flushable because it's the easiest way to get rid of whatever it is you wipe on these things. And I think that the federal law is what's going to take the effect with this material. But what we need to do as a committee is, like you said, come up with public service announcements, come up with signs that we can, permanent signs, not a card that they can probably throw in the toilet and cause a greater problem. But
maybe develop a campaign for public
yeah,
awareness. Yeah.
For public schools and any public buildings would certainly reduce the problem if it didn't solve it, because that's where the concentration of these materials are used.
Further questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Would
you like me to leave these pictures?
Yes, if you're willing to, Senator Waters might want to look at those. I don't know. Good morning.
Most of that. Thank you very much.
Yes. Wade Pelham? In favor and wishing to speak. I believe you're our last speaker unless somebody else, and you have a co-speaker with you.
I do. You should also be listed. Ray Gordon with
Oh,
ES.
sorry, Ray, I apologize. Just introduce yourself and you have the floor.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and committee members. Thank you for the opportunity to comment on House Bill 1134. My name is Wade Pelham. I work for the Department of Environmental Services and the Wastewater Engineering Bureau. Our bureau is involved each day with public wastewater utilities and also with those professionals who service on-site septic systems which all experience significant and costly impairments resulting from flushing wipes not intended for down the drain disposal. The resulting blockages can, and many times do, create raw sewage overflow conditions and sewage backups into homes and businesses, which can be harmful to the environment and to human health. For these reasons, we support a study commission to examine ways to provide customers clear and consistent instructions on how to properly dispose of these products. There have been efforts nationally in states already like Illinois, Washington, and Oregon, and we support those efforts. With me today is Ray Gordon of New Hampshire DES, who has spent over a decade involved with the issue with wastewater operators and with septic haulers, and is now the administrator of the Winnipesaukee River Basin Program, the regional wastewater treatment facility.
Thank you, Wade. So for, better part of the last 15, 17 years, I've been on the front line of this issue. I could probably answer most of your questions. I'm going to try to keep my statement short, and then I can address your questions. But as a administrator of a wastewater facility, we have to deal day to day with what people flush down the drain. The system's designed for, toilet paper. 40 years ago, that's all they had. It would go down the drain, and it would get to the treatment plant. In time, many products have been developed, and this is the most interesting. It's a mitten that you wear on your hand to wipe your butt.
Okay, really?
It's a real product you can buy on Amazon.com, and they've actually found this causing problems in the sewers of Nashua. Luckily, I have not seen it in my system. We serve 10 towns in the Lakes region. And I gave you a couple pictures of the things that we're dealing with. And anything in the sewer line can act as a catch. And then the rags, the wipes, paper towels, and the grease, the fats, oil, and greases can all collect and clog the sewer line. And here, one of my staff members is removing that material from the sewer line. It can also cause problems in the pumps. This cost me $15,000 for our sewer system. When the guys were pulling the pump apart to remove the clog, the impeller broke, and you can see he's holding the chunk of metal that came off because it was jammed in there so tightly that they really had to use some force to take the pump apart to remove the jammed material. So there is a definite cost. We've added many grinders and screens throughout the system over the years. Some of the smaller ones that we buy for my system start about $15,000. And when it chops up the material, it can rebind and create an even tougher product down the line. And then you still need some screens to take it out before it gets to the actual treatment of the treatment plant. And I always tell people, flushing these products is the expensive way to throw out your solid waste. We're right now trying to get a second screen at the headworks of our facility, and it's about $250,000 for just the piece of equipment. So we're trying to work that into our budgets. So there's a definite cost to wastewater facilities and sewer users around the country. And it's a nationally recognized issue. Many people have been talking about it. The industry, as a result of the pressure, has created standards that they would test these products and set voluntary standards for these products that would say if it's sewer and septic safe or if it's flushable. The problem is they're voluntary. So states like Washington, Oregon, Illinois have all passed legislation. Other states like California and New York and Maine have all tried or are trying to pass legislation to make these voluntary standards mandatory that the industry has already established that simply say which products can and cannot be flushed based on a diagram that if this happens, it's flushable, if this happens, it's not. And there's about, I think it's 7 or 11 tests in that procedure to determine it. And the wastewater industry has participated over the years with that association. It's the Association of Non-Woven Manufacturers. It's called INDA. For short, it's actually a French translation, which is why the English doesn't translate exactly. And they have a World of Wipes conference every year where they discuss these things and try to overcome, you know, some of the barriers to keep selling these products, because last I checked, it's $14 billion a year industry. And they don't want to lose that market. They don't want people to ban it. Now, in New Hampshire, what we had to do, because it is so complex, saying you got this product and this product and this product, and what is the difference between them all? Which ones can be flushed? We couldn't sort it all out, so we just said, we created the What's Flushable campaign, and you all have this magnet and brochure at your desk. And we just said, you know, human waste and toilet paper are flushable. Right now, that's the one thing we can say, because we don't know which products have passed the testing, the voluntary testing, which ones haven't, because there is no consistent labeling on those packages.
I'm glad they put in the toy helicopter.
Well, quick side story, it was a condom and we got too many complaints, so we switched it to a toy helicopter.
All right.
But they cause problems in the treatment plant too, and we're just trying to get a sense out of things that should be flushed and should not be flushed.
So, if you don't mind me interjecting, how has this worked out for Washington and Oregon with the labeling? Have they had a reduction?
Yeah, they've only passed in about the past year or so. So there's no hard, fast data yet. The California legislation has spurned the industry of all of these manufacturers to form educational groups. Do you remember the name of that group, Wade? But Wade and I attended a meeting a few weeks ago, and they're just now gearing up this giant campaign for California to start to teach residents not to flush the products. And I think that campaign, being from the manufacturers, will be available to other states as well.
Are there mandatory labeling on these at all?
Only in 3 or 4 states, Oregon, Washington. And
Are there current? For instance, for instance, the plastic on the does it say this is recyclable, or for instance on that can, is there a mandatory? Is it mandatory that this is recyclable or it is not recyclable or something? There's a number on there.
Right. There is no mandatory about the waste management on the labeling. A lot of things, especially like Clorox wipes, have EPA mandated labeling.
So there is some form of mandatory labeling
yes.
on some level.
Right. It just doesn't extend to the disposal.
I see.
And so states have been trying to, you know, to legislate the voluntary standards to make them in effect in their state.
So what you're trying to do, my understanding is you're trying to come up with a solution to promulgate an understanding for the communities at large to properly dispose. It's not necessarily specifically designed to create a mandate. It's a study as to let's come up with a solution.
Right, because it's obvious we need a solution, and we actually tried with some labeling legislation with the New Hampshire Water Pollution Control Association. I act as an advisor to them as far as DES, but we couldn't get a sponsor for the labeling, so Representative Bucco was kind enough to sponsor, hey, well, let's try to get legislation for a commission or a committee so that we could figure out the exact language that we would want on a label, because there is actually 2 competing standards for that labeling. The INDA is the more recognized, and I forget the name of the other group at the moment, but the other one's trying to come along and be even stronger, and it's a non-industry standard. It's more from the wastewater background, from folks like me that got together and formed another organization. So,
do you know of any other legislation that is in the works that's coming our way to deal with this issue, or is this the only piece?
In New Hampshire, this is the only legislation I'm aware of on wipes.
Questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you very much for your testimony.
Thank you.
Is the prime sponsor still here? Oh, yeah. Do you have any follow-up real quick? Any final statements?
This was what we consider to be a first step, and I hope that we'll be able to take this step and get something started,
Okay.
at least in awareness.
All right, thank you, Representative, we appreciate it. Oh, well, Rainey, did you sign up?
No, I didn't.
Oh.
I got here late.
I'm so glad that you waved.
I was trying to sneak in.
Please introduce
Good
yourself.
morning, Chairman. For the record, Rainey Pelletier, Water Director of Division of DES. So I'll be succinct, and you know how tough that is for me, but I'll be very succinct. As you know, we operate a wastewater treatment plant in Franklin, which Ray is one of the supervisors. One of my concerns is that the cost is definitely goes over to the ratepayers. We continually service 10 municipalities in the Franklin treatment plant, somewhere around the tune of 4.5 million gallons a day that we treat. One of the concerns I have is, number one, and I think Ray has tried to tell you what the cost associated with, but one of the things that really concerns me as overseeing that kind of facility, as I'm sure it's with all wastewater treatment plants, is the risk that it constantly puts the staff in. You know, if you were to, I can assure you, and anytime you wanted to take a tour, I would be more than glad to take you on a little tour, but if you saw the conditions that are required to clean up these grinders and the clogs, it's not good. So one of the concerns I think that we have is, you know, it is important that labeling would be one tool in the toolbox, the way I see it. And I think what the committee would bring is an ability to throw out some concepts of how we can get public notice on this stuff. I think, again, labeling is one of the tools, but I think we work very hard to do more and more outreach. I know that I sit in front of the advisory board for the basin, and constantly we're explaining the cost associated with buying a new pump for $15,000 or whatever. So anything we can do to enhance education on this is really important. And one of my biggest concerns is the risks that day to day the staff at the basin are put in jeopardy as far as health. It's a tough business to be in. It's a unique person that is willing to do this, perform this work. But I would like to advocate that we at least get to the committee part. We've drafted some language we thought might be appropriate for labeling, but that I would think would be something a committee could discuss what the format looked like. But I would hope that the committee would see the value in this. I think it's an issue. It's costing a lot of money. It's putting a lot of people at risk from a public health perspective. So I hope the committee would entertain passing this so we can hopefully move forward and make some progress.
Thank you for your testimony. Questions from the committee? Senator Gaida.
Very succinct.
All right, thank you very much, Rainey. And with that, we're going to close the hearing, and we're going to open up the next hearing to HB 1168. HB 1168, ladies and gentlemen. I think this one's harmless, Bob. Yeah. 1168. Thank you, sir.
Okay, so for the record, I'm still Peter Bixby, Dover, Stratford 17, and so a couple. When we were looking at the amendment last year to the soil health statute to add plant biostimulants that your committee actually recommended last year, or actually it came before your committee, and it was then came back to our committee to fix the amendment a bit. But we were looking at that amendment, and that amendment was appropriately put into the chapter 431, soil conditioners. And one of the first things that struck us with that chapter is that even though it is called soil conditioners, there is no definition of soil conditioners in that statute. That led to us thinking, okay, there might be some more issues with this chapter as well. So I did a read through of it, and yes, there were issues, and I'll just make a quick run through of some of the things that need to be addressed. So the chapter has only had minor revisions in the last 2 decades. One of our roles as legislators is to make sure that our state laws are appropriate to current agricultural practices, scientific knowledge, and the broad legal context at both the state and federal level. And some of the things that concern me were, first of all, the lack of a definition of soil conditions. But beyond that, the definitions in the statute, in the current statute, don't take into account the requirements of the National Organic Program, even though state law requires compliance for anyone selling products labeled as organic. So we have a potential clash of statutes going on there. There also may be other deviations from federal fertilizer regulations or definitions that I wasn't able to investigate at that point. The definitions concerning compost and what exactly counts as fertilizer are also unclear. Under some definitions, it would seem that compost would be considered fertilizers, and under others, it seems like it would not. The newly added definition related to plant biostimulants, although it's a good idea to have something in there, is actually a little bit unclear, and it needs to be clarified also how that fits into the regulatory framework of the entire chapter. Fertilizers and soil conditioners clearly impact soil properties, and the scientific understanding of soils has grown substantially since this chapter last had a significant revision. So we need to hear from soil experts on whether there are elements that need to be revised in light of new science. The registration fees collected under this chapter are sent to the general fund as unrestricted income. Penalties also go to the general fund. There is no indication of how the work of analyzing fertilizer samples, verifying and approving labels, and taking enforcement action gets paid for. While I think that sending the penalties to the general fund makes sense in order to avoid the appearance of the department profiting from enforcement actions, sending the registration fee to the general fund seems like converting a fee into a disproportionate tax. Even though this has been going on for 25 years, it's still not justified. I'd also like to make a note on the fines. We currently have SB 368 in front of us, which is going to change the way that fines are dealt with in terms of going into a separate administrative fund for a hearing officer, and that when that passes, there's going to be this chapter will need to be adjusted to make sure that that is in conformity with 368. So I think we need to look at this chapter carefully, and that's why I am asking for a study committee.
Wonderful. Thank you for your
Oh, one other thing.
Uh-oh.
You'll appreciate this, I hope. Senator Waters, who is a little bit quiet right now, approached me about the possibility of attaching a non-germane amendment having to do with the changing the cap on what's allowable with the oil protection fund, spill protection fund, and I am entirely amenable to that non-germane amendment. And Howard Pearl has also, Representative Howard Pearl has expressed his support for that as well.
Okay, that's good to know. All right, so amendment. All right.
Happy to take any questions.
We're happy to give them if we have any. And seeing none, thank you for your testimony and for bringing the bill forward. I have Anthony from NHDS, which supports but doesn't wish to speak, and Robert Bishop, which just doesn't want to speak but doesn't say whether he supports or opposes. So he just said no as far as speaking. So does anybody else want to talk about this? Seeing none, thank you. We'll close the hearing on this. So he already talked to me about that. How we doing, Bob? Good? By the way, thank you. Taking committee for me the other day. That's fine. All right. And so now we'll open up the hearing to 1528, HB 1528. Oh, Bill. Oh, my gosh. Representative, how are you?
Good, how are you, Senator?
I'm well. You have the floor.
Thank you, Senator, and members of the committee. For the record, Representative Jeff Goley, representing Hillsborough District 8, which is Manchester Ward 1. And here today to introduce to you House Bill 1528 as amended by the House. House Bill 1528 just makes it so that those who own kayaks or canoes can voluntarily contribute to the Boat Access Fund. I set it up similar to, I think most of you are familiar with the Hike Safe Card. And it was surprising the amount of money that generates for Fish and Game. Currently for the Boat Access Fund, the funding that goes into that is $5 off of every motorboat registration, and paddle boats do not put any money into that fund. This allows those who want to, and I've been talking to a lot of folks who are looking to help out. 50% of the boat launch sites are for car top access only, which is canoes and paddle boats, and those on motorboats are funding those sites with no money coming from the other individuals. So this gives them a way to actually donate to the program. It's strictly voluntary. A letter was sent out this morning by the Lakes Management Advisory Committee in support of this, and I think it's pretty straightforward, and we'd be glad to answer any questions if you have them.
So is this basically you check a box and a certain portion of your fee goes into it, or you can add to your fee for what license or boat or registration or something to that effect?
This is all left open for Fish and Game to draft rules on how they want to implement the program, and that's going to be up to them. I think with the organizations that are signing on in support of this, we look at how AMC helped out with the Hike Safe Card and, you know, advertising it and getting people out there to buy. I think we can get these groups that are associated with the waterfronts doing the same thing to their members and letting them know that this is a great tool for them to increase access, better the access sites, make up room for more parking. We know that if we go out there and you go look on any lake or pond out there, the numbers of kayaks and canoes, this will just increase the parking spaces and help maintain those sites for these individuals.
Senator Gaida.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My presumption would be there would also be an online portal to donate to this thing, and I would imagine that's in Fish and Game's bailiwick.
I would assume so. There's someone here from Fish and Game that can answer that.
Thank you.
All right, and strictly volunteer, it's not a tax.
Exactly.
We love it. So, further questions? Well done. Thank you, Representative.
Thank you, Senator.
And Representative Smith in favor, not wishing to speak. Representative Renzullo in support, not wishing to speak. Garrett, wishing to speak. Grasscamp? How did I do? Grasscamp. Good. Well done. All right, New Hampshire Fish and Game in support, wishing to speak. You have the floor. No, you just turned it off. There you go.
So this is a warning. You should be stopped talking right away because it's red. So thank you very much, Chairman and members of the committee, for having me today. My name is Garrett Grasscamp. I'm the Boat Access Coordinator for the Fish and Game Department here at the state. And I'm here to describe the Boat Access Program as it stands now and to answer any questions that you have. Boat access and getting onto our lakes is a major part of our tourism and our culture here almost in the state. Going back to the 30s through the 70s, there was a program called the Road to Public Waters, which was an ad hoc method for citizens to petition the governor and go through the governor and council process in the end to develop small boat access sites. There are about 120 of them around the state. Most of them are around an acre or less in size. In the late 70s, it became apparent that this was not going to work very well because of the increasing tourism and pressures on our lakes. So in 1993, the legislature passed RSA 233-A, which established the statewide public boat access program and the funding for it. And we have used that funding since then to build our boat ramps. It involves a $5 surcharge on every registered boat in the state, which basically is only motorboats, non-paddle, non-motorized boats and paddle boards and hand propelled craft are not part of that contribution program. So that is the purpose of this bill, is to provide a voluntary option for people who want to help get onto our lakes. And mostly that's going to be your kayaks and kayakers and canoeists. We have seen a great uptick in the last 2 years that exemplifies the pressures that are on our lakes now to get onto and recreate on our water bodies. And this would provide another source of income into the statewide public boat access fund to expand our opportunities perhaps to purchase properties to build more boat ramps. That would include both kayakers and motorboats. We would not separate out this volunteer fund. It would be distributed.
It's earmarked.
Earmarked based on the priorities that we see across the state. Right now, we have 135 boat access sites, of which 58 of them are simply just for car top sites, just for kayaks and canoes. Yet they've paid no money to, enjoy that opportunity, and we still have to maintain those sites. So the $5 that we received in 1993 is in statute and hasn't gone up. And the Consumer Price Index indicates that that's about $2.58 now. And that is the overall inflation rate, but if you're looking at lake property, that inflation rate doesn't cover it. So we're at a great disadvantage in terms of being able to purchase property and develop them. Our most recent property purchase was Downing's Landing at the southern tip of Alton Bay in 2012. It cost us $1 million to buy that. My budget is less than $1 million a year. It costs us another $1 million to build it. We will be opening it in the next 2 or 3 weeks to the public, and we're very proud of what we were able to do there. I've gotten a lot of calls already on how good it looks, and people are very anxious to get on the lake there. So I guess I'll also say that boat access is part of our overall economy here. And it's a fairness issue that we need to address to allow more opportunity for people to get on. With COVID over the last 2 years, I've received a lot of calls from towns and individuals trying to get on lakes, but they're just overcrowded. One of our largest sites is up in Ossipee to get onto Lake Ossipee. That site has 31 parking spots. It's basically our largest site. And there were another 31, there were another tens of cars out on Route 25 parking to use that ramp. So what I'm trying to say there is we need to have more opportunities to get recreation supported in this state. The last time a public beach was opened up was 1982, 40 years ago. So we're way behind the curve overall with our recreational opportunities in the state. So I think I'll close it there and ask if you have any questions.
Questions from the committee? Senator Gray.
Would you believe that the official opening is May the 3rd for the ribbon cutting in Alton? Unfortunately, the same time as this meeting is generally held, but I do represent Alton.
I'm sorry that you won't be there.
I'm going to try.
Well, unless you could play hooky, but now they know where you're going to be, so.
It's on the record. Strike that, please. All right, any further questions? Seeing none, well done. Thank you very much for your testimony. Kyle Baker, in support, New Hampshire Wildlife Federation. Is this your first time here? I'm just kidding.
Not quite.
Welcome, Kyle.
Morning. Morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Kyle Baker. Work at Rathyoung and Pignatelli, and I'm here today on behalf of the New Hampshire Wildlife Federation. The New Hampshire Wildlife Federation represents an affiliated membership of about 55,000 sportsmen and sportswomen, sporting clubs, and other outdoor organizations around the state, looking to be the leading advocate for the protection of the right to hunt, fish, trap, as well as the ability to preserve and conserve land for hunting and fishing. We fully support this bill. We think it's a great opportunity to get more folks involved and more folks sort of at the table having a stake in the game as far as protecting and preserving and expanding the access to our public waters. As you can imagine, sometimes there's a little bit of a conflict between motorized boat operators and non-motorized boat operators when it comes to sort of the limited parking availability at some of these launches. You can imagine if you showed up, got your boat together, got the family in the car, and got to the launch and found there was nowhere to park. So we see this as an opportunity to continue to expand and protect and improve these sites. And, you know, we've heard about Downing's Landing. Downing's Landing, obviously one of the largest projects in the last region of time to take advantage of these funds to preserve, expand, and improve sort of one of the largest access points and busiest access points year-round to Lake Winnipesaukee and Alton. So with that, happy to answer any questions, but that's all I've got.
Questions from the committee? Well done. Thank you. Anybody else want to talk about this? You're my last speaker. Going once, going twice. Closing the hearing. Well done. All right. And 9:45, we're right on time. We're going to hear from the prime sponsor of 1066, HB 1066. Thank you. Representative, you have the floor.
Good morning, Senator Avard and members of the committee. I emailed you my testimony. I also have it printed if you'd like it. Here you go. For the record, my name is Representative Rosemarie Rung, and I represent Hillsborough 21, which is the town of Merrimack. I'm not going to read my testimony, but I do want to go over 10 important elements of cyanobacteria blooms and the importance of this bill. First of all, cyanobacteria blooms are ugly. They make a lake look like it's pea soup or that it's got green paint floating on it. It also smells pretty bad too. It has an odor of acidic soil, like something that is off. Now, going into the water where there is a bloom causes skin rashes and intestinal distress. This is more prevalent in children and pets because they have a lower body mass and tend to ingest water while swimming. Dogs have died after swimming in a bloom. Cyanotoxins have been linked to severe neurological diseases like ALS. Dr. Elijah Stommel, a professor at Dartmouth Giselle School of Medicine, is a pioneer in this research and has shown the link between ALS rates and cyanobacteria blooms at Muskoma Lake in Enfield, and he supports this bill. Cyanobacteria blooms also threaten our economy. Lake Winnipesaukee alone generates $17 billion to New Hampshire. Without a consistently clean and safe lake, New Hampshire stands to lose millions of dollars a year, if not more. And as an example, blooms have ruined vacations for those staying in waterfront rentals. Tourists rent these homes to enjoy waterfront access, only to find out there is a toxic bloom during their stay. Once tourists experience a bloom, they never return. Once a bloom occurs on a lake, it's likely to reoccur and become chronic and more difficult to mitigate. That is the reason we must act now on 1066 to ensure our response is more effective. We know the factors that contribute to blooms: warmer water temperatures, which we can't control, phosphorus loading from runoff, erosion, failed waterfront septic systems, sediment disruptions, and more. What we need is a comprehensive approach to deal with blooms in all our lakes, not the piecemeal approach we have now through individual watershed associations. We need DES to have the resources to begin this work. When I first filed this bill in the House, dozens of people contacted me in support. They want to lend their expertise, experience, and time to helping to address cyanobacteria blooms. Having a defined advisory committee, as in Senator Kahn's amendment, will rally stakeholders and support the work that DES does. This committee can also catalyze non-legislative and non-regulatory remedies. As elected officials, we are stewards of this great state. In fact, New Hampshire is the greatest state in the U.S., primarily because of our natural beauty and resources and the goodness of our people. We need to protect them and not wait until this problem becomes one we can't control. So I respectfully ask that you consider 1066 as ought to pass, and I would welcome any questions you have.
Okay, so you said there's an amendment, Senator Kahn?
Yeah, I believe Senator Kahn is submitting an amendment. What it's going to do is allow DES to have some seed money to begin their work this year, and also to define an advisory committee of key stakeholders in the state that can serve to advise DES and help them identify impacts of their work or ways that these groups can support a statewide plan. Members of the advisory committee, which are also members of the original commission, this bill actually started in the House as a commission, are members of New Hampshire Lakes Association, New Hampshire Rivers Council, Lake Winnipesaukee Association, the Nature Conservancy, individual watershed associations that are in the state, people that have been living through cyanobacteria blooms, and they see firsthand the threat that they pose to our state.
So this didn't start off as with an FN, now it has an FN on it, $30,000?
Yes, yes, and I can let Senator Kahn speak more about that.
Is this part of his?
Yes, it's part of his amendment.
Is his amendment already in this bill?
No, I have a copy of it. I think he
I
can.
don't have a copy of it.
Oh, yeah.
All right, is he here?
Yeah, he should. There was like 3 places he had to be to at once.
Yeah. That's what senators do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, any questions from the committee? All right. This is the amendment. Is there a fiscal note with this as well? Or this is part of his fiscal note?
Yeah,
This is the $30,000 seed money?
right, $30,000. And I know Ted Deers from DES is here. He can speak to more on that, but I believe that $30,000 was to begin a literature search. The impact, the causes of cyanobacteria blooms are being studied worldwide. So the depth and breadth of research and information is going to take resources to be able to compile and understand how that can impact and be used in New Hampshire.
Well done, Representative. Thank you very much.
Right. Thank you very much.
Further questions? And we'll hear from Representative Renzullo. Welcome, Representative. Did you get a chance to look at this amendment?
Yes, I have. And I'll just speak a little bit about that. But first, let me introduce myself. I'm Andy Renzullo, represent Hillsborough, District 37, which is Hudson and Pelham. I also chair the House Resources, Recreation, and Development Committee. Now, House Bill 1066 started off as an act establishing a commission to investigate and analyze the environmental and human and animal health impacts relating to cyanobacterial blooms in New Hampshire water bodies. That's the quote of what the bill says. It ended up as an act requiring the commissioner of the Department of Environmental Services to prepare a plan relative to cyanobacteria blooms in New Hampshire. Now, how did this come to pass? Well, first of all, enacting new commissions is under heavy scrutiny from our legislative leadership. And this, having this as a commission didn't appear, for a variety of reasons, a 4.5-year commission wouldn't make it into law. However, the cyanobacteria problem is real and needs to be addressed. So why not start it now? So a few of us decided to bring forth an amendment to House Bill 1066 to forego the commission and instead ask DES to, quote, prepare a plan to prevent the increase of and eventually control cyanobacteria blooms in New Hampshire's lakes and other waters. We wrote a simple one-paragraph amendment replacing the entire bill and it outlined the plan, a plan request, and submitted it to Rennie Pelletier, the director of the Water Division, for review. He ran with it and produced a comprehensive outline as to how he would proceed in creating the plan. And I assume he's going to be testifying. And by the way, the committee bill, the bill passed in committee unanimously, and the House went through the House on consent. There is an amendment that Ms. Pelletier has prepared. We do support it. It's for $30,000. Reason that it was not in the original amendment to this bill, creating the request for a plan, is that the bill was heard after the all the bills for a second committee had gone through. So we basically had missed the deadline. But so that's why the request is here to ask this body to help with that funding. Okay. As far as the requests concerning addition of people for a committee to help him, if you read our original amendment, which is now the bill, it's well within his requirement. He can do that at any time. We would support it. We would support it without an amendment too. But it is. This is what he wants to do. That's fine. This is a new way of doing things. This was put together. The amendment was the original amendment making the bill asking for a plan was put together by folks who've done a lot in business and have done this kind of plan before
so the House is okay with this,
the
amendment?
Yes, at least if this member of the House and the person, yes, it is.
That speaks volumes.
It is, and this bill will be just the beginning, and it'll be bigger and more significant bills in the future because this is a major project. So all this does is it accelerates activity and allows DES to acquire his advice that he needs, and basically allows him to do his job without with the freedom to accomplish his tasks. Any questions?
Not more than 17 individuals who represent the following interests. That was my only, it's like, how did we come up with 17?
That's in his new amendment?
Yeah.
You'll have to ask him.
Yeah, okay.
Because again, this,
Figure I'd cut to the
his, it's now his to run with.
Well, we appreciate your testimony. Are there any questions from the committee? Well done, sir. Thank you. Ted from DES in support, wishing to speak. New Hampshire DES. Ted and Dave.
Get a twofer.
It sounds like a place you go play pinball at or something. Ted and Dave's or Bob's and Buster's are welcome.
Thank you,
You have
Senator.
the floor.
Appreciate it. Senator, it's good to see you again. I am Ted Deers. I'm the administrator of the Watershed Management Bureau at the Department of Environmental Services, and I'm accompanied by Dave Niels, who is our senior biologist for the department. So I'm just going to introduce just a couple of things about the amendment and kind of why we're here, what we're doing. And Dave's going to fill in. Representative Rung did a fantastic job of summarizing the various different impacts of cyanobacteria. I don't think we need to belabor those, but Dave can fill in some of the blanks from his perspective as a biologist. So I'm just going to basically say where this came out of. We obviously have a number of cyanobacteria blooms around the state. In fact, per Senator Khan's request, I put together a list, which I'm going to pass around to you all, which shows all of the...
This way.
Yeah. Which has a list of the known cyanobacteria blooms around the state by county. And you can see that every county except for Sullivan County has had cyanobacteria blooms. Why not Sullivan? Well, it has fewer lakes and fewer people generally. Mm-hmm. So you can see that this is a widespread issue. This covers all districts within the Senate. And certainly this is dated. This is dated back to about 2019 in terms of our approved impairments. But you can see it's pretty widespread. So just so that you have this, to make sure that you understand that this is not just a one-off thing. This occurs throughout the state. We are very much in favor of this approach of coming up with a plan, and I'll tell you why. And that is because largely we have been reactionary to cyanobacteria issues. So we hear from people around lakes. They see green pea soup in their lake. We respond. We go determine whether or not it is actually safe for humans to be, and their domestic animals, to be recreating in that particular body of water. Then we post advisories, warnings that suggest that people should not be making contact with those waters if it is triggered by the actual sampling that we do. We're counting numbers of cells of certain kinds of cyanobacteria. We look at the species and we look at the counts. We've also begun over the last few years to measure the actual toxicity. There are dozens of toxins, and Dave can talk more to that, but we do test a couple of them to see whether or not we do have actual toxicity in the water. So it's an incredibly fast-moving scientific community right now in cyanobacteria. It's a hot issue throughout the world. It's a hot issue especially in drinking water, because if we were to really get serious cyano blooms in one of our drinking water sources, it could be very, very challenging for that community to deal with that. So I'm going to let Dave jump in here for a second, and then maybe we can come back to the amendment and just talk a little bit about why we thought that some of those things were necessary.
Great.
Thank you. Good morning, members of the committee. Again, my name is David Niels. I'm the chief aquatic biologist at the state of New Hampshire. I'm the one that oversees the program that monitors cyanobacteria on a daily basis.
So this is your fault.
It is, yeah, it's entirely my fault. And it's a very busy laboratory in the summertime in particular. And I'll give you just some quick stats about the way things are occurring here in the state of New Hampshire. Last year, and as typical for the past several years, we had blooms in 30 water bodies across the state. The list that you're seeing that Ted handed out shows 90 already listed as impaired. That leads to about 800 days every year of lost recreational opportunities with the advisories that we post. So that's a significant amount of time that people cannot recreate on their water bodies. As Ted mentioned, We do this by using microscopes. We examine samples under the microscope. Last year, we did 1,000 samples in the summertime. So it was a very, as I mentioned, very busy summertime. Representative Rung did give a nice overview on the health effects related to toxins, so I'm not going to go into that. But needless to say, it expands beyond just lost recreational opportunities. We talked about agricultural impacts, people that water their animals, that can also be a loss there as well. And then, as Ted mentioned, the impacts to public water supplies can be significant if they were to occur there. Our state's largest public water supplies, Manchester Waterworks and Pennachuck Waterworks, they all draw water from surface waters. And luckily, they haven't had any problems yet, but they are tracking them regularly. But there's a lot of surface water supplies out there right now that don't track cyanobacteria plumes at all. So what we know right now is there's several lakes across the state that bloom every year, and we can count on those. We call those our frequent flyers. But then every year, we also have many new water bodies that bloom as well. We really don't have any way to fix these blooms, which is one of the big reasons why we think this amendment or this bill is really important. There are technologies out there that will fix them, but right now we don't have a real strategic way of employing those fixes. And as you can imagine, they're not free either. The other thing we have is we do have a fairly sophisticated notification and surveillance system, but we think we can do better and I think this bill will allow us to explore other opportunities and what the public would really want to see in terms of a notification system. So we think that the bills would do a great job in helping us better understand the causes of cyanobacteria blooms. As scientists, we kind of know what those are, but we don't know specifically in New Hampshire what is causing the blooms in all cases. We have an understanding in general what those cases are, but each water body is different. We also think that we, again, would like to explore opportunities to identify what the preferred options for tracking and notification is, and obviously working with public water supply systems to enhance their monitoring programs, we think is really critical to keeping the public safe. So we think this is a great opportunity to work with the folks across the state to understand the cyanobacteria problem better, work towards fixes, and understand what people really would like to see. So thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions they have.
I do have a few, but I'll leave the committee first. Senator Gray.
Probably for the edification of our people that are online and other things. I know you haven't, gotten down to specific areas, but if you just, in 2 minutes or less, tell us what the causes are so that people understand.
So the easy way to envision it, to explain it to people, I like to tell people it's like a tea kettle. So you have a tea kettle, that's your lake, right? And you have water in and water out, but in the summertime, you don't have a lot of water in and water out. You add light, you add heat, and you add nutrients. So, it's like growing a plant, which is basically what you're doing in the water body. So, light, heat, and nutrients. Those are the main causes. We can't control light, we can't control heat, but we can control nutrients.
So the root cause is the nutrients going into the lakes?
So in some cases, it is the nutrients going into the lake, but in a lot of cases, it's also the historic nutrients that are on the bottom of the lake.
All right, so I noticed you have a couple of areas in my area. Mine falls in Nashua, which I walk my dog a lot, and in Ringe, I've got a few places. So how harmful is this to the animals?
So it can be very harmful to animals. There's been lots of reports across the country where animals have died almost immediately. In some cases, the toxins that are produced can cause almost immediate neurological effects on the pets. We have had some cases here in New Hampshire. I'm not sure we've had any pet deaths, but we do get reports of people's animals getting sick. And I think that's one of the areas we'd really like to improve on, is to have a better reporting system in that nature.
Questions from the committee? Okay, so you definitely support the amendment, and you've seen it. And so
I can speak more to the amendment if you want, but if you have questions specifically, I worked with Senator Khan.
I don't know how he came up with the 17 individuals. That's all.
So basically, what we did was counted the number of organizations that had been suggested to us.
That's on line 22.
Yeah, and then added a few extra spots.
Okay.
And made it an odd number.
And for some people, that might be a problem. No, just kidding. So you said there may be, in the testimony, there may be a solution, but we don't know how to implement it.
So I think that there could be lots of solutions. And this is, I think, the reason why we wanted to have a diversity of opinions coming into this. Certainly there's a scientific side of this, but there's also a public policy side to all of this in terms of the notification. How do we know about these things? There's interest in, what sort of are some of the root causes, that is the historic legacy pollutants that are in the bottom of the lakes, how those are basically coming to bear within the lake itself, as well as the land uses around the lakes. So all of these things will come to bear, and we need to have some constructive conversations about how would you start to address some of those, as well as making sure that the public is safe by having good notification. So we're going to be in a situation, and it's kind of like where we've been going on our invasive plant species, where we want to have detection, right? We want to have prevention, we want to have response, and then we want to have long-term monitoring and analysis. So these are sort of the basic elements of what would make up a plan, so that we're not, because right now I think we're completely reactive. We don't have a proactive profile on this issue, and that's where we would go from here.
So our public drinking waters, those are pretty much safe as far as the Pennachuck and, but my question is directed towards the Merrimack River. From what I understand, Nashua is drawing from that for drinking water instead of Pennachuck. Is this safe to drink?
Yeah, we tend not to get cyanobacteria blooms in rivers, with the exception of the Merrimeeting River, you may be aware of in New Durham. But I think, Dave, you can speak more to that, but the running water basically moves along.
But don't some of the lakes leak into the river?
So relative to water supplies, cyanobacteria, unless it's a really, really harmful bloom, what we know now is that a lot of the treatment options that public water supplies have are effective. Nationally, if you remember several years ago, Lake Area and the city of Toledo, Ohio, their entire water supply system was shut down. That was basically because there was a cyanobacteria bloom in Lake Area that was so severe and so toxic that it was interfering with their ability to distribute safe water to the customers.
Right. I know Mine Falls leaks into the Nashua River, which goes into the Merrimack River.
Right.
Mine Falls is one of the...
Correct.
Right.
But
Okay.
remember, there's a lot of water in the Merrimack River.
Yeah.
And it also has...
And there's a historic where there was pollutants dumped in there for years and years and years and years.
But you also have lots of turnover, lots of biological activity, which tends to then cause the cyanobacteria to basically die or get eaten by things.
Thank you. I'm just curious.
Yeah.
While I'm here. Okay. I see Senator Khan's here. If you want to talk, Senator Gray.
Before they leave, one can talk about the requirement for the 30,000.
Sure.
One that's not contained already in the budget.
Great. So I appreciate that. This was, thank you again for the question. This was never anticipated in the last budget when we were writing the budget 2 years ago, for this particular budget session that we're in now. So it was never anticipated that this is something that we'd be working on. And what would we do with these dollars, I think is a good question. You didn't exactly ask it, but I think that that's kind of inherent in that. And the idea is that we would be able to bring some additional scientific abilities to bear through different researchers that could help us to compile and better understand the data that we currently have in front of us, as well as, and I think this is the really critical piece, is that we need to hear from the lake communities, especially around this state, the beach and lake communities around the state, to understand what their concerns are and how they would like to be able to better understand what's going on in their lakes. Representative Rung talked about the impacts of someone losing their entire vacation on a particular water body because you can't swim in it because it's not safe. That's a pretty significant hazard. And so how do people find out about that? How do people better understand that it's not like that all the time, that just because it was like that 1 week on one lake in 1 year doesn't mean it's going to be like that forever. These are some of the really key issues that we need to hear about, and so we would like to bring some additional help in to be able to provide some of that kind of input. So that's the nature of this, and it's not in the budget because we had not pondered this, several years ago when we wrote the current budget.
No pun intended. Ponder. That was bad. It was very weak, but I caught on. All right, further questions? I'm laughing at my own humor, so that's okay. Senator Khan, you have the floor. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I know. And we're talking about your amendment, Senator Khan? You want to run it through us, or run through it with us? So Senator Waters isn't be here till 11, and he wanted us to wait to accept some of these bills. So,
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. For our record, Jay Kahn, State Senator in District 10, resident of Keene and representing 15 of 23 towns in Cheshire County. And my interest here today is when I became aware of Representative Rung's bill in the House and followed that this was coming over to the Senate, this became pretty important for Cheshire County. We have had blooms of cyanobacteria on a number of lakes in Cheshire County over multiple years. And it behaves much like you've already heard. It takes a week to observe. Everybody panics. We got to get environmental services out here. It gets tested. It's got to get tested a couple more times to see if it's still present and that the toxins are continuing to be released. And it's not a 1 week event. These are usually 3 week events. My observation reported to me from the other lakes. So it's like fecal bacteria, in a lake. It has the same kind of test, observation test, retest, and then declaration that it's safe to use. So, but there aren't clear guidance. There is not clear guidance to lake associations as to how to manage these blooms, nor is the extent of the harm fully understood. Should their people or their pets use the water? So that's why I picked up the phone. I talked to Commissioner Scott, and I became concerned. Will the Department of Environmental Services have the resources to do this study, which had been delegated to him by the House amendment? And he became concerned. He shared the concern with me that perhaps they would not. And I don't think this is something that can wait. I think we need to understand this just in the same way that the committee acted on invasive species just within the last month and called that to my attention as a state issue. I think we need to call this to the high priority list of issues we need to study this year so that we're in a position in a future legislature to act on this with recommendations that come from the environmental services and the stakeholders that they can engage. So I know that environmental services has a bunch of projects. We've just determined that they should be distributing lots of money to improvements of waterways and bridges and roads in the state. And they're participants in all of that, and the quality of water. So I think that the appropriation is modest. They didn't come back with something that was exorbitant. I think engaging professional assistance would be really valuable and accelerate the progress that hopefully could come and be useful in the next budget cycle of the state. And the re-engagement of the advisory committee, which was deleted, which is not a commission, no additional appointments for legislators, but a stakeholder group that could advise the commissioner and his staff. And that's the nature of the amendment. I think this is a good bill. I hope we don't get in the way of the bill, and I hope the amendment is something that strengthens it.
Wonderful. Well done. Questions from the committee? See, you did a great job.
I bet the people before me probably did even better.
Oh, they set the groundwork, but you're a good closer.
I've left the amendment with the clerk, and I trust that the committee will know how to handle that suggestion.
Very competent people here. Thank you very much, Senator. Appreciate your testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any further comments on this particular bill before we close the hearing? Going once, going twice, and we will close the hearing. Oh, whoa.
Hi. Sorry.
I saw the hand just before I clicked.
My name is Michelle Davis Farnham. I'm with New Hampshire Lakes.
Did you sign up? Oh, you know what?
I got it at the last
That was my
minute.
problem. I screwed up.
So thank you for giving me the opportunity to testify. You've all gotten a lot of really great information that I don't want to repeat. But at New Hampshire Lakes, we are particularly concerned about cyanobacteria, and especially this summer after a very mild winter. There were blooms just before Thanksgiving last year, so the season is increasing in length as well. And you heard that there were 800 recreation days lost. We are hearing from our supporters that cyanobacteria is affecting them in their use and enjoyment of their lake and their lakefront homes. One of our supporters told us a story about her dog going deaf after a cyanobacteria exposure. Here in New Hampshire, Tucker Pond in Salisbury has been unable to support swimming for almost 2 years now. People are having a hard time convincing their children and their grandchildren, the future of the state, to come up and visit during the summer months. I wouldn't want to risk my precious vacation time to come up and not be able to use the lake. And you know, people's rental units are at risk of laying vacant for the same reasons. So we feel strongly that this plan has the opportunity to compile the information about the extent of cyanobacteria blooms and begin addressing increasing occurrence and severity. And it's our opinion and that this isn't an issue that can be siloed into one state agency or department. And so having an interdisciplinary group of stakeholders that can work together, even on non-regulatory initiatives, is really important to us. And just for your information, New Hampshire Lakes is a statewide publicly supported nonprofit, and we're working to inspire and encourage people to take a vested interest in their lakes. And we run a program, it's called the Lake Smart program, and that's a voluntary non-regulatory program where people can invite us out after doing a self-assessment of their property and figure out ways that they can reduce their impact on the lake, and some of that is reducing nutrient loading on the lake. So from septic systems, from cleaning products, from drip lines on their houses, et cetera. So that's a program that's been going on for 3 years, and we're starting to grow the program and partner with other lake associations, like Winnipesaukee has the same initiative. But there's a lot of work to be done, and a couple people here and there on a lake doing this program is great, but to really make an impact on cyanobacteria blooms, there needs to be a lot more done.
Thank you for your testimony. Questions from the committee? I believe you are the final speaker, so you're the closer.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And with that, we're going to close the hearing. And we're going to take a 15-minute recess until Senator Waters gets back so that we can start executing some of these. Okay? Actually, 20 minutes.
The problem is that, you know, this bill was introduced a whole way back when, and now, on the morning that it's being heard in the Senate, we hear about adding money to it, okay? Wasn't an FN. $30,000 in the department's budget. You know, I spoke to the department during our recess. You know, well, it's seed money to get it started. You know, we're going to put it in the budget. Again, you know, it's the timing of that $30,000, and that I get an amendment, you know, the morning of the, you know, that we're going to vote on it. Tough.
Is it an unreasonable amount?
It's a very small amount, but that means, you know, that now the people here that are on finance, are you guys going to take this and go do anything with it? You know, all it says is $30,000 doesn't have the normal words, you know, that the governor is, you know, and all those other words that aren't in there, you know, for an appropriation.
With financing that they put all the words in that's necessary?
I think that would be appropriate.
Yeah.
Or take the funding out, one or the other.
Yeah. So if we pass it and they get sent to finance, then they can refinance. Is that reasonable?
I don't know that there's a guarantee that finance would even look at it, because it's not an FN bill to start with.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry to be a minute. I thought this, I remember something. If you go to the bill on the website, the amended version, there is a new fiscal note that says from the department, I'll just read it. Can you put your mic on? The department estimates the cost to prepare such a plan will be $30,000 and assumes it be expended in FY 2023. Department states expenditures will be made on a contractual basis to obtain input from stakeholders and complete toxicological analysis of water samples. So I have a feeling that's why the amendment came in, because when they amended it in the House, that $30,000 popped up on the amendment. And so I have a feeling that this says, oh, okay, we saw that. Let's put it in the bill. So I think that's what happened. I mean, I know it's late, you know, to get it late, but I seem to remember that there had in fact been that figure somewhere, and it's in the fiscal note.
Further discussion?
But yeah, it ought to go to finance.
Yeah. So if it goes to finance, they can determine whether they want to take it or leave it.
If Senator Guida promises me that he will do what needs to be done to get it into finance, I'll support the bill.
I want to see that.
Gyrations?
All right. All in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All in favor of the bill as amended?
I'll move it.
Aye.
And any opposed?
Do we get a formal motion as amended and seconded?
Yeah, I'll move as amended.
Didn't I just say that?
Well, you said it, but you don't get the second you're on.
Okay, so what he said. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? You want this on consent?
Sure. Consent.
And then to move to, and then we can say we'll move it to.
Ask Gary to take it.
Yeah. Okay. All in favor of consent?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none.
The question I have before if we put it on consent, do we want to discuss that it needs to go to finance on the floor of the Senate? Is that a discussion that, I don't know procedurally whether that's.
You need to take action before that, because it should be on the FN report.
Yeah. So ask Gary to put it on the or the chairman could ask Gary to put it in the FN
Yeah.
report.
Make a note of that. We asked that Senator Daniels put it on an FN report.
That it would go to finance, not be waived.
It will not be waived. Yeah. All right. Senator Perkins Coca. Okay.
Also, Senator Amherst, I didn't get who made the motion on
Water's Guide.
Okay, the next one, House Bill 1168, establishing committee to study New Hampshire law relative to the soil conditions.
This one we've got to hold.
Oh, this is the one that we
Yeah.
hold. Oh. All right, so we're gonna hold that one. Do you have an amendment coming? So, 1528, establishing a public boat access. Okay, Senator, discussion. This bill establishes the public boat access donations program operations. I think it's a great bill.
Nice idea, yeah.
And it's voluntary, so that's, we love voluntary. So, it's been seconded, first by Senator Gaida, seconded by Senator Perkins Quokka. Discussion, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Is there a motion for it to go on consent? Huh? Is it seconded? Okay. All in favor of consent? Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, Senator Gaida, you made the first motion. You'd like to take it out? All right. 1344, commission to study the proper labeling and disposables of wipes. I like this bill. I think it's just a study. I know that there's some angst possibly with potentially causing departments to have to, or private companies to label, but it is a study. It is a problem. I've actually visited some of these wastewater plants, and I don't know, it's a study, it keeps the conversation alive, but I'll entertain a motion one way or another.
As long as you serve on the committee.
I don't have a problem with that if they ask me to.
It's a crappy assignment.
It's a crappy assignment, so.
Waste not, want not.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Okay, Senator Perkins Quokka, seconded by
Second.
Senator Waters. Comment?
The reason for my comments in the committee is that the wastewater treatment plant is a hammer and they see this as a nail, okay? And there's only one solution, and that's, ban them forever, okay? There's other solutions out there, and that's what I want the committee to do, is to look at those others, okay? By, they have these rake things that can go into the stream, and do that. They can look at different designs for the grinding systems that they have in the system, and those things, because our ability to train every individual out there isn't going to happen.
Right.
So I see reduction, training the people, as a way to minimize the problem, not eliminate the problem. And to eliminate it, you need to do something else, in my opinion, may be technologically based.
So as a study.
Example.
As a study, I would volunteer for the study if necessary, but I would.
So noted.
Yeah, I would. No, it's not a problem, but the labeling might not be the answer. It might be a public service announcement, or it might be something else, but at least this is the only bill out there to address the issue.
Right, and the fact that they tried to get a sponsor for labeling or more proactive activity, but they couldn't, means that this is probably the right next step.
I don't think we're gonna end up
So
labeling.
I want to add something then, under 3.
Yeah,
Under 3?
Yeah, because it only gives me 2 things.
Right.
Study the impacts to water quality.
Yeah.
And ways to ensure proper labeling. We gotta go way past that. I'd like to put something in there about
Okay, so
investigate the technology and engineering.
Well, isn't that, Senator Gotti, isn't that in number 1 there? Lines 12, 13? I mean, that's what I would assume when I read that.
Yeah, it just says study impacts to water quality and associated costs. It doesn't say anything about incorporating a review of engineering.
Well, wastewater infrastructure, impacts on wastewater infrastructure, isn't that what it's?
The impact, we know what the impact on wastewater infrastructure
All right.
is.
Yeah, okay. Well, how about adding something there, waste impacts?
I just think
and-
Roman 3 that says committee shall study current engineering and technological improvements to existing wastewater systems to mitigate.
Got it.
is that good?
I would take out the
Fine.
word current.
Okay.
So just put engineering and technological.
All right, Daley, I need to know what you have written down.
I have Roman 3, shell study, we're not doing current, so shell study, engineering and technological, and then.
I think it can just start with engineering.
That may mitigate the problem.
Improvements.
That may mitigate the problem of,
That may mitigate
the problem,
non-flushable waste.
Right.
non-flush, that may mitigate the problem of non-flushable waste.
Good idea, good idea.
I do acknowledge that sometimes this legislative work is not glamorous. You gotta get your hands dirty.
All right.
I thought you were gonna mention it.
So-
I just wanted to have it testify that you have never flushed a wipe.
I actually almost asked, would you believe that I have 2 children in diapers and I don't flush my wipes?
Okay, just for the record, after,
Many children in diapers, and I don't flush my
under section 3A, it will read,
Committee shall study engineering and technological improvements that may mitigate the problem of non-flushable waste.
Yes.
all in favor of that language?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. So we amend the bill as,
Okay.
and,
I move the bill act pass as amended.
Second.
discussion, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. And is there a
Move
motion to move consent? Second, by Senator Waters. Prime, Senator Perkins Polka, second by Senator Waters, all in favor? Aye.
Aye. All right.
Any opposed? I'll take it out. No, I might be the, study it.
Sorry, Senator, I have the motion for the committee amendment, I did not get who made the motion.
I made the motion act pass as amended.
I seconded.
Oh.
On the committee amendment?
On the actual amendment.
I seconded.
1066, requiring the Commissioner of DES to prepare a plan relative to cyber, or,
I know bacterial, we did that
oh,
one.
we did that one, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
So should we do some FNs?
Yeah, we're gonna do anything now. So, PFAS, HB 1546. Senator Guy, you had an amendment for 1546 FN?
Yeah, I misplaced
Pass
it.
it out.
I have one.
I have
You
one
wanna talk
too.
to it?
So this amendment was, requested to clarify what's being studied, essentially. The department is okay with the language. I think we have someone from the department here that would be, if interested, willing to speak to their acquiescence to the language and any other concerns you might have. No? So I will introduce amendment 1354, ask for the committee.
I'll second.
Okay, discussion?
Senator Guida, is this the amendment that responds to the concerns raised by the, oh no, it was your concern, I think, raised on the language suggested by the BIA?
Yeah.
Okay.
Further discussion?
I want to look at one thing here.
Consider whether such modifiers. By January 1st.
Okay.
All in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Is there a motion on the bill?
Move OTPA.
Second?
Senator Gaida, Senator Perkins Polka. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, is there a motion for consent?
Second?
Okay, Gaida, Perkins Polka, all in favor of consent?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none. Wonderful, all right. HB 624,
Who's taking out 1546?
Senator Gaida. HB 624, let me get it, I gotta find that. Do I have? There it is.
Oh, Mr. Chairman?
Yep.
On this one, can we have Heidi Kroll come up, because I think I kind of spaced out on some talk about a potential
We had that discussion about the 60, 90 days that Senator Gray had mentioned.
Okay.
Which bill are we doing?
624.
All right, so that was the one that's gonna go on, all right.
Yeah.
I also have the written amendment language for.
Where is the amendment? Is in my, yes.
I believe that Representative Vos sent us an email.
Yeah, I have copies of that as well.
Okay, but I did not, is the amendment from Senator Abard and Senator Waters of April 1st responsive to Representative Vos's?
Heidi, I think, I don't know if this amendment basically addresses their concerns. I don't, go ahead.
That's where it is, yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, there is an amendment that was drafted, I'm just looking through my folder, not sure that I had it here, but Tricia did send it.
10:30.
It was drafted after the public hearing, and there were two changes relative to the amendment that had the hearing.
Yep.
The two changes were, the first change was that there was language about for informational
I get that.
purposes. There would be submission to the Department of Energy, and that
Yeah.
would change to
Yeah.
for review and approval.
So this is 1308.
Yes.
And then
Okay.
there's a second a sentence that was added after that sentence, which says, and this addressed the discussion prompted by, it's a question by Senator Gray. If the Department of Energy does not review and approve the methodology within 90 days from the date of submission, then the submission shall automatically be deemed approved.
Yes.
That addressed my concerns.
Yeah, and that's what Senator Gray actually helped us process. And so,
Okay, so that, yeah, thank you, I have that.
did you look at what Representative Vos?
So I don't think that Vos's language is in 1308.
No, it is not.
So we may just want to do a committee amendment?
Well, I think we'd have to, yeah. So can we pause here and just see what his votes?
Yep.
So he says, Scott says,
So his first change is to section 1 of the bill, which is actually unaffected by the amendment.
Right.
so he wants to say any state agency or official rather than the administrator of such state agency, and that makes sense.
Yep.
And then the committee shall ensure, that makes sense. And then whether the committee or appropriate state agency so designated, and that took care of the problem that DES did not want to do the enforcement,
Right.
right?
Yep.
That was causing heartburn.
After section.
So that some other more appropriate agency could do the, Scott had strong objections to having to be the enforcement mechanism.
Yeah, those were all raised in the hearing, so.
So I guess the question would be to move, well, the content of 13.8 plus these changes.
Right.
As a committee amendment?
Is everybody okay with that? Well, let's work on 1308 first. Is everybody okay with 1308S?
Yes.
Is there a motion?
Well, we have to do,
Well,
we have to do one amendment.
if you're gonna do the committee amendment,
Yeah.
then you don't need to vote on the other one first.
Okay,
So
all right.
I'll move a committee amendment which will combine 1308S and the language from Representative Vos.
Is everybody good with that?
Yes.
We may want to give him better direction on where that language goes in.
Well, I think that since these sections here, 1 and 4, are not incorporated into the section 5 changes that Heidi has, that it's pretty clear that
They don't overlap.
what's supposed to be done. Does that make sense to you, Daley?
Well, I guess, okay.
Do you have a
so-
copy of the Vos?
Yeah. I mean, I could just say for clarity. So the committee amendment would include change to page 1, line 3 of HB 1624 as amended by the House to remove the administrator or such.
Yep.
and replace it with any.
Okay.
The second change shown in Bose's email is actually already in the bill, so that is not a change that needs to be made. And then if we move to section 4, which is on page 2, line 4, then we would, but after committee, we would insert or appropriate state agency so designated. And then it continues, determines that any term or condition of any certificate. Is that,
You got that, Daley?
Yeah, you just run that by me one more time.
sure thing. Okay, so you have 624 as amended by the House?
Yep.
Okay. Page 1, line 3. Near the end of the line, there are the words the administrator or such. We're going to cross those out. We're going to replace all of that with the word any. And then on page 2 of the bill, on line 4, we're going to insert some language, so it should read, whenever the committee or appropriate state agency so designated determines that any term. So we would remove the language that's already suggested to be removed.
So whenever the committee or appropriate state agency.
So designated.
So designated, yeah. Would you mind reading that back to us real quick, just so we're accurate?
So on page 2 of the bill, line 4, it will read, whenever the committee or appropriate state agency so designated determines that any term or condition, et cetera.
Right. And, I beg your pardon? Yeah. And so, yeah. So with that in 1308, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none. Is there a motion?
Consent.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none. Who would like to take this out?
Well, I can do it, or Bob, you want to do it? You're the site evaluation guy. Yeah.
Send the guy who will take it out. All right. Any preferences? Let's see here.
Well, 12:30 might be an easy one.
Famous last word.
Online presentation of deer for registration.
Yeah, what are your thoughts? Let's see, where is that?
Just take a quick look.
I'm sorry, the number was again?
12:30.
12:30. All right.
Why is this red in mine?
Howard Pros, Bill? Is there a motion?
OTP.
OT, Senator Gray, Senator Gaida. Discussion.
Well, it's good it's got an FM, because there is in the physical note, the department states creating and operating an online registration system would be a substantial departure from the current registration system, is unable to estimate the resources required at this time. I guess maybe,
No one opposed to it.
yeah, do you want to, given that note from the department, put the implementation, the effective date out to January 1st? In other words, let's get past this deer hunting season. 'Cause if they've got to change their computers or such, I think we got to go past this hunting season.
Good idea.
So I would, as a committee amendment, say effective date, the date shall take effect January 1st, 2023.
Discussion on the amendment?
Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry.
It says shall be established.
Yeah, do note that up there, the system's not gonna be established before September 1st, 2023, so let them get started. I apologize, Mr. Chairman, never mind.
It's just a belt and suspenders, that's all.
That's all.
good
All right,
job.
we're good. Let us get
Okay.
started on it.
So all in favor of the bill?
Aye.
Not amended, right, okay. Any opposed? Seeing none?
Consent.
Consent, Senator Perkins Coca, seconded by Senator Gray. All right, all in favor of consent?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing how you mentioned it, Senator Perkins Coca, I'm gonna give this one to you.
Oh boy, thank you.
Oh dear.
Oh dear, that was a good one.
It took you a second? All right. HB 410, the bill establishing a commission to study assessing power generation and utilities transmissions.
Which one you got?
Yeah, I thought this is, I mean, look, it all comes back to Seabrook, right, and the evaluation of that property. But, you look at the list of all those facilities in the state. And I think it'd be very good to kind of get a sense and rationalize, what's going on with these assessments? And what's fair and why is it being done the way it is? So it seemed to me that this was there weren't objections, were there? Anybody?
No, I think 410 was pretty universal.
Yeah, so I'll move on to pass. On House Bill 410, I have moved on to pass.
Seconded by Senator Perkins Coca.
Yep.
Further discussion? Senator Gray.
There are newer designs in reactors that are much safer than those that were built back in the 70s. So, not that it will get universal support out there, but it doesn't have a lot of the problems.
That's not this bill. This is the assessing one.
This is the
410.
assessing bill.
Yeah, I like the other one too, but this is the
I
assessing.
thought that we were doing 410.
Yeah.
410, establishing commission to study assessing generation and utility
Oh.
transmission.
Okay. Sorry about that.
We actually already acted on the nuclear bill, but
We did?
Yeah,
we did, didn't we? Isn't
Yeah.
it on the consent calendar?
yeah, we
this
did.
week?
Okay.
Good bill.
All right.
How soon I forget.
It's getting to be a blur with all these bills, so.
Everybody supported, so I think
Yeah.
we're
Let
good.
me just,
Yep.
since I wasn't on the right,
Establishing commission to study
I wanna
assessing
go
power
back
generation
and-
utility.
refresh my memory before I do anything else.
When was this heard? When was this heard, Daley?
4-7.
4-7. Yeah.
So the department has looked at.
I wasn't here.
Unifying the assessment of poles and wires. They've never looked at a unified approach to transmission and generation.
Yep.
Yeah.
I like it.
So
And
that makes, to me, it makes sense.
Yeah. And Myrna said that just kind of got left out of that House Bill 700 in 2018, which is the one that looked at the uniformity, so, yeah, good idea.
So do you have a motion?
Yeah.
I made it, yeah.
And I seconded it.
Senator Grayson, just looking at it right now.
Seems on the ASB too.
Well, and that's what I was looking at down on the bottom of page 2. NHAAO is down there, but the Assessing Standards Board isn't down there, but NHAAO does appoint people to Assessing Standards Board. I guess I would like to see an amendment added to add the chair or designee of the Assessing Standards Board.
The chair?
Or designee.
Or designee.
So that would be I.
Daley?
Standards.
Is that the full title?
Assessing Standards Board is the full title of the board.
Not New Hampshire Assessing Standards Board? Or? Look it up.
Yeah, because we have NHAAO.
It's called the New Hampshire Department of Revenue Administration Assessing Standards Board. Well, maybe.
Same thing?
I think it's just the Assessing Standards Board. You're right. ASB. ASB. You got it.
All right.
All right.
I was just
But I
looking.
checked.
The quorum statement, is there one in here that we need to change if we do that?
So we want to move that as a committee amendment?
Is the,
Majority of the appointed members of the commission shall constitute a quorum. Line 4, page 2.
Good, then no, don't
Yeah, we're good.
change
We're
that.
good. Yeah.
so as a committee amendment, just one more
Move
time,
the
if you don't mind
committee
reading that back to us, Daley?
Letter I, the chair or designee of the Assessing Standards Board.
And I'll move the committee amendment.
Seconded by Senator Gaida. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none. Bill as amended.
I'll move the bill as passed as amended.
Second.
Aye.
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 Everybody aye.
Aye.
Aye, aye, aye. All right.
Consent.
Second.
Seconded by Senator Gaida. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'll
Seeing
take
none.
it out.
Senator Perkins Coker volunteers to take this one out. Thank you, Senator Perkins Coker.
I'm a team player.
Yay.
Stepping up to the plate.
So, let's see, relative to definition of game camera. Oh, I'm gonna wait on that one. Yikes.
Good luck with that.
Do we do 1187? HB, this has to do with pasteurization.
Oh, I was.
Yeah, so, I'll move what to pass. On that one, let me get it back up in front of me.
Just refresh my memory, when was this heard?
This was
The 5th. We're here on the 5th.
All right, raw milk, let's do it.
So, just to note that we did something similar, didn't we, on the ice cream, but this just clarifies it, and you're gonna get the label.
Okay.
So,
Okay, so just to clarify, any product sold, this labeling requirement in section 2 would pick up all of the products. Okay. And
Let's see
I'm
the committee
okay with
hearing
it.
report on here. All right,
so no rep showed up and nobody opposed.
so, further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 I'm looking at line 12, any product containing one milk from the milk producer distributor's farm, or farm stand, obviously related, if it's sold in containers provided by the producer distributor, the individual container shall have a label. What about if sold in containers not provided by the producer distributor?
Yeah.
Well, that's on you. I mean,
If you bring your own container, is what that.
Right.
Raw milk.
And people do that. I used to do that, and
Was it legal?
you can do that. You can bring your own container.
I was just teasing you.
Well, all of that, isn't that existing law?
Yeah.
And that the change
Yeah, that's
is
all existing.
17?
Okay.
And I would just say given what happened at Brandmore Farm in Rollinsford with a tainted batch of milk, the milk producers really want to do the right thing. And I think they will welcome this labeling because it will help them legally, I think, and also just for consumers' understanding. I mean, the people who are consuming this want it, and that's why they patronize certain herds. But this is a good public health addition. So.
Right, so all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none. Is there a motion for consent?
So moved.
All in favor of consent?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
I'll be glad to take it out if you'd
Senator
like.
Waters wants to take it out. Milk toast bill.
Sorry for asking you to repeat. I had the motion brought to pass. Was that made by you, Senator Perkins?
I think I may have made it.
Yeah, I think he made it.
Yeah. But I don't know.
Relative to recycling, okay, so HB 1459. So that last one is on consent, correct?
Yes.
Okay, good, thank you.
So I don't know if it has been released to the committee yet or not, but, I have an amendment to, this is related, I have an amendment to HB 1049.
14, I'm sorry, did I say 1049?
No, you said 1459.
Okay.
I-
Your amendment is.
Stick with me for a minute, yeah. My amendment is to HB 1049 because Assistant Commissioner Sanborn suggested that depending on the committee's opinion, this bill may not be ripe, and one way we could address it at this stage would be to add it to the study commission
Where is this amendment?
in 1049.
Yeah, well, we don't have it yet. We haven't heard 1049 yet.
Right.
But I think that's a good idea. I mean, that we're gonna get that committee.
Oh, you know what, I have it written down right there.
And
Sorry.
that would be a good place to put it. I think we heard in the hearing that 1459 is just a can of worms. And I hope that when it gets that to the time, I'd hope we would ITL it.
1459.
Yeah, and this would, but this would provide an opportunity as the recycling capacities for these things is evolving and fast developing, that committee could look into it.
All right, so we have HB 1049 as a study bill, so what's the pleasure of the committee here? Do you want to just ITL this bill now, or just?
Well, if people are comfortable with that, I think it makes sense.
I heard somebody say that we haven't heard that one yet.
No, that's the other one.
Okay.
The House bill.
1049.
Hasn't
Yeah,
come
we haven't
yet.
heard that. That's,
Right.
if we
So-
kill this, we would put that duty onto 1049.
Correct.
I'm missing something.
Okay, there's a study commission in 1049, which
Yep.
we have not heard yet. Added to that commission via an amendment I have prepared, we would include recycling of solar panels in the commission's scope.
Therefore, this bill is not necessary.
Because it is my belief that this bill is not ripe. And that was the suggestion of Assistant Commissioner Sanborn
And I actually
on
have that
how
written
to
down.
act on 1459.
Yeah.
The only thing I'm questioning is timing,
Okay?
okay? And doing that without even having the hearing on the bill that we're putting it on
Sure.
just seems like wrong timing.
Okay.
So
we
if we,
just hold off on this then?
Well-
That would be my suggestion.
It's got an FN. So it's hard, I mean, just my opinion, Senator Gray, is that I think it's very hard to imagine our passing this bill. I think it created such a host of problems. And,
Look at how we should have designated the bill as an early bill, but did not. We mixed up recent errors.
Well, 1459 is an FN bill, so it is an early bill, but you still have next week to do it.
right, the department definitely, they came out, they opposed it for two reasons. Firstly, they do not feel like they have enough information, blah, blah, blah. And the second is that they have to, the issue that they have with the bill is there is a fee. So,
We like
it,
the,
but,
I'll second.
and to deal with the issue of recycling, you have an amendment for 1049. If it comes, we haven't heard it yet, but we're prepared for it to hear it.
We are prepared to hear it, and it wouldn't change my action on 1459. I mean, I think 1459 should be ITL regardless, but I did prepare that amendment just in case the committee was interested in that.
Senator Gray?
I I don't see anything compelling me to vote in favor of it. I will reach consensus with you all.
So done. So moved. So moted be. Yea, verily. So, all in favor of ITL?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, is there a motion?
Consent?
Consent? Okay.
Okay, we love consent. I know Senator Alessandro doesn't.
Imagine how long sessions
Hey, I'm
would be.
happy, I'm happy to talk about this on the floor, but.
So, a motion is for consent by Senator Waters, seconded by Senator Gaida. All in favor of consent?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none. Senator Perkins Coker, you have the honors.
I was going to offer. Thank you.
Did we do the brook trout?
Brook trout.
We heard it.
Oh.
Yeah, we did hear it.
I was asking for additional information. I don't think we've gotten yet on that.
Do we?
What number is it? Yeah, let me.
241.
Refresh my memory. Or maybe they answered my question.
This
here.
bill repeals, this bill repeals the definition of brook trout? I didn't hear this.
Fishing game supports it.
They do, huh?
Yeah,
Relative
my concern was that it might, affect some other programs we have related to brook trout, and I was assured that it would not.
Right.
Because in rules, the kind of, it wouldn't affect the rules that are around brook trout. And it particularly had the issue about minnow netting, that if we deleted definition, would it then undo the needed language we have about minnow netting, that you can't net minnows when the brook trout fingerlings are around. So I think we're good to go.
So what are we gonna call them?
Well, it just, there is another, elsewhere in state statute. See, brook trout is a generic, it includes rainbow, includes others.
All right.
Elsewhere in statute, there's the state fish, it's the state fish, but it is a particular species that is named, a genus species named in the state fish definition. So we are good to go.
Okay, all in favor?
You already moved, are we in motion?
I move on to pass.
Okay, all in favor?
I haven't gotten the folder out yet.
Oh.
You didn't tell me.
I thought I said 241?
You may have.
My,
You know, communication isn't
Something fishy here.
received,
yeah.
Isn't achieved until it's received,
That is true. I learned that in high school.
And although I do remember the discussion, I wanted to get out my actual bill.
There are gaps in my memory.
I think we're impressing people.
No, we're not.
How we're impressing you.
Yeah.
This is reality.
Well, if you're putting in a bill and the bill's being heard, there's that gap in your memory. Right?
What?
Exactly.
What?
All right.
Okay. Have we acted? 241?
I have a motion to pass from Senator Waters and Senator Beckman.
Okay. Okay.
The chair is going to say all in favor.
All in favor. I was just waiting for you to get your.
I'm good.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Move consent.
Second.
Senator Waters consent, second by Senator Gaida. All in favor of consent?
Aye.
Senator Gray, you haven't taken one out. Would you like to take this one out?
Swimming against the current.
Senator Gray takes it
Good
out.
one.
All right, so.
It's rising to the bait.
I won't try to swim upstream.
Thank you. No, I don't think I'm gonna do that one. So, what else here?
Okay. Should we do, there's 1328, which is that carriers of last resort.
Oh.
I don't know if
Yeah.
we're ready.
I need to make one more phone call that I haven't heard back from
Okay.
yet. And, I the bill makes some sense, but I want to check with one of the people who is strongly opposed. That's all.
What about 1491?
1491?
This was the notification for the gas pipeline.
Oh, yeah, that's a good bill.
Where are we?
1491.
Where is it?
Yeah, that one made sense to me.
They have a note that no one was opposed.
1491, where are you? Right.
So I think this is clarifying, it's not changing our current statute about the parameters, or, you know, the distance from of a line that you have to inform folks. It's just clarifying the notification process. And we heard from TC Energy and partnership with TC Energy and the folks, so.
Motion is
I'll move on to pass.
seconded by Senator Gaida. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none? And
Consent.
Second.
seconded by Senator Perkins Polka. All in favor of consent? Any opposed? Seeing none. I'll take this one out, seeing how I haven't gotten one.
Go for it.
Yeah. All right.
Make BJ happy.
Ha ha ha. On a roll over there.
Just wait till that transmitting hydrogen, folks. It's coming.
Not to contradict the chair, but 1134, you're taken out too.
Oh, chair is corrected. All right, I think that's it for today on execing, and so I.
Good, we got some stuff done.
How many did we get done today?
Too many to count.
Well, let's see.
We got a good dent in it?
11, I believe.
Yeah, and Daley, thanks so much for making, you know, for organizing all this and making everything go.
Yeah, and
Go
put it into the
smoothly.
record. Thanks, Senator Gaida, for chairing, for the chair the other day, and for.
He did a beautiful job.
He did.
By the way.
That's a fantastic job. I want that
It
in
was
the
such a,
record.
it was a refreshing improvement.
Yeah. There you go. And for the rest of the committee for taking.
I move we get out of exec.
Seconded by Senator Gaida. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none? Thank you. All right, so that's good, right? Yeah. All right.
That was great.
Flushed with success.
Yeah.
The committee adjourned.
Yay, verily.
I'm glad I wasn't here for the description of pulling those masses out of the pipes. I've heard about it from my public works
thought it
guy
was
in Dover. It's
Sasquatch
like,
for a minute.
I gotta kill this one.
I think so. You know, I was